Hello, it's me, Susan Flory. A hearty hello. I've got another episode of The Big Middle for you. The Big Middle, of course, is your one-stop shop for longer, healthy midlife by design, learning from the sharpest thinkers around. And regulars will know and adore the sharp thinker that I've got for you this time round. It's Dr. Fayne Frey, anti-ageism dermatologist and skin cancer specialist, my guiding light, as you may have heard last week, through my encounter with a malignant melanoma. Hello, Fayne. How the heck are you?
Hi, Susan. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Well, it's like we planned it. We both got our V-necks on.
I got the dress memo.
Absolutely. Mine is dark gray. Is yours gray as well?
No, mine's black.
Okay. Okay. So we're completely different. You can't
Yes.
spot the difference. Now, we covered almost everything skincare in our conversation a couple of years back, but you are back on the show with very good reason. You've written a hot new book called The Skincare Hoax: How You're Being Tricked into Buying Lotions, Potions, and Wrinkle Creams. Before we get into all those tricks, how thrilled are you with its reception?
I am thrilled. I am shocked. It has been so well received. Right after it was released, it hit #1 new release in 2 different categories on Amazon, where it has been bouncing back and forth from 1 to 2 to 3 to 1. It's really been a fantastic experience that I'm so grateful for.
Talk about meeting a need.
Yeah, there's nobody advocating for the consumer, which is what I've been doing for years. As you know, we've talked about it 2.5 years ago, and it just culminated into this project, which is now into a book form, The Skincare Hoax. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I'm meeting great friends and great people and, having a really great time with it all.
Fantastic. Now, your dedication, it reads, to every woman who was told she needed a beauty fix and walked away. I mean, this is the pot where we put the hoax in, the essence of your message, your beliefs, your values. Tell us more about this pot that you put everything in.
Well, Susan, I see in my office every day, right? Women come to my office and they feel inadequate and they're listening to these messages. You see them. We're bombarded with these messages of marketing that we need to be this definition of beauty that, in my opinion, is just unrealistic and unobtainable. And so they feel bad about themselves. And I don't think anyone should be told they need a beauty fix. If you want to go have a beauty fix, that's your choice, but you don't need a beauty fix. And to me, it was a pump fist to just say they walked away. They don't need it. They love themselves for who they are. And that's the confidence I would like to instill in all the consumers, which is the underlying message of the book.
You think even since COVID, and maybe even before and during, more and more women, and to a lesser degree men, because they're getting bombarded by the same messages for perfection and the Instagram filters that go on, and this cultural template that we have constructed. I say we because culture is fluid. It's a construct. It's a human construct, and we've made it, and the makers of the potions and lotions, we've given them too much power to make us feel insecure.
Yes, and you mentioned the COVID, the pandemic. We are sitting in front of our computers more and more because that's what you do during a pandemic. And so we get bombarded by even more messages, right? We have all those pop-ups and people are on their computers and their phones and their iPads. So we see these messages which are influencing us towards this idea of beauty. But you would think that this pandemic would also give us reason to, get a new perspective of what's really important. This pandemic was tough on a lot of us. So I was hoping that the perspective would have changed as to what is really important. And it's not so much the physicality of who we are, but who we are, not what we look like.
Yeah, I think though the overwhelming, the decibel level of the louder messaging to have, conform to this idealized version of beauty, it overwhelms the desire that we all had in COVID, the reflection that we all did, and the questioning of our values and how we want to live in the world.
Sure.
Maybe I can't say percentages, but, I see everybody's falling into their old patterns.
Yeah, we are humans. I think you're right. We just fall back into where that's what makes us human, I guess. So I'm here to remind people.
Yeah. Before we get into the specifics of the hoax, Fayne, and to understand its scale, we need to better understand the physiology of the skin, the layers of it. I'd like you to give us a refresher course on this.
Very simply, the skin has three layers. The absolute bottom layer is called fat. We all have it. The middle layer is called the dermis. That's where all your blood vessels and all your proteins are that give support and structure to the skin. And then the top layer is the layer that we feel, that we touch, that we apply all our products onto. That layer, the very top layer, it also has multiple layers in and of itself. Very, very top, or the most superficial layer of the top layer of skin, called the epidermis, is about 20 layers of non-living. These are dead cells, but they are very functional. Susan, they're wrapped in fat, which is why we're waterproof, right? We can swim in an ocean for hours. Nothing goes into us. Nothing comes out. We don't swell up like a blueberry, and we don't swell up like a sponge. The surface of the skin has a really great function, which is to maintain the water balance of our skin and also of us. So it's a very important layer, despite the fact it's not a living layer. And it is designed, again, with those fats, and also those little tiny cells at the very surface, which are not living, are filled with small compounds that act as sponges. We call them humectants. And these little humectants actually draw water from the deeper levels of the skin, which is why men in particular, but anybody who doesn't moisturize, when you feel their skin, it's still moist. We don't dry and crack up and fall onto the sidewalk, because the skin has a purpose, and it's keeping us hydrated.
Oh, wow. So it's even self-hydrating to a degree.
It absolutely is. And those same sponges, those little humectants in the very surface of those cells, also can draw water from a very humid environment. In the middle of July here in New York, it's very humid, and the skin can actually draw water from the air. So it's a wonderful organ, and it is an incredible mechanism by which it works.
And the terrible thing is, though, we attach so much cultural baggage to this mechanism, because through the ages, we are told that only when we are in the first flush of youth are we attractive. And so it becomes a very difficult message to overwhelm with the common sense of it and the science. I want to ask you about the marketing of these lotions and potions, which can't really do much more than temporarily plump up the dead skin. The obvious place to start is the marketing. We've got gorgeous, eye-catching packaging, and we've got slogans and dubious claim upon dubious claim. What marketing buzzwords amount to nothing but hype?
Oh, there's hundreds of them. You've seen them all.
The worst of them, then. Give us your top 10.
Well, let me give you my top one: anti-aging. I think anti-aging is the most brilliant marketing term on the planet. I mean, science hasn't figured out a single ingredient, a single compound, a single product that can yet reverse the aging process. And also, what you have to understand is this idea that you said it, these are cosmetics. In the United States, and it's not too dissimilar in the UK, these products are limited as to what they can really do by law. So the intent of these products is not to change the structure or the function of the skin. It's not to treat disease or mitigate disease. It's to adorn. It's to beautify. That's the definition by law. And the manufacturers know this. So they're limited as to what these products can actually do, and even to what ingredients. They can't even have drug ingredients in these products. So that's sort of a baseline where we're starting with all these cosmetics. But
well, it's predatory, isn't it? The marketing, it's really predatory, because it's fear-based, because we have this cultural fear of aging. We're going to be, tossed in a corner and allowed to become failed and frail. And, if you get this magic elixir, you're going to suddenly burst forth into higher energy and better life all round. And it is just such a, it's ridiculous.
Well, it is fear-based. I think as people, we're all fearful, and we all have to come to terms with our own mortality. So aging has become a battle. Instead of, it's a process. It's a brilliant process. Susan, imagine if you knew 20 years ago what you know today. I wish I knew 20, 30 years ago what I know today. I'm a better version of myself today than I was then. And that's aging. It's a brilliant, beautiful process. But of course, if these companies didn't objectify us, they wouldn't exist, these beauty companies. So this is a means to an end for them.
Yeah, well, with age, if you're lucky enough to keep on trucking, you have the liberation of acceptance. And as David Bowie said, you grow into the person you always should have been. But that only comes as the decades roll up. as we know. So getting back to the actual hoax terms, the buzzwords, what does nourishing mean when you see it on the outside of a label, when you're talking about nourishing dead layers of skin?
Well, of course, when you tell somebody that something's nourishing, they're assuming it's feeding the source, it's good for you. But as we just discussed, the top 20 layers of skin are non-living. So the products in cosmetics that touch the skin are touching these 20 non-living layers. It is not possible to nourish non-living tissue. So it's a wonderful buzzword. Again, it implies it's doing some food enhancement. It's giving nutrition to the skin, but that's just that's a claim, and it's a fallacy. You don't give nutrition to the skin on the surface in a cosmetic.
Well, I've always had the view, thanks to my mom, that it's an inside job. You know, your skin will have a better chance of glowing and looking healthy if she was Irish, and she used to say that her beautiful skin came from walking. It was either 20 miles or 200 miles to school and back. You know, it always shifted depending on how she was feeling that day. But, you know, she would slather on the moisturizer and that was it. And she used to scream at me for putting too many products on when I was a teenager. You grow up and you spend a fortune, at least I did in my 20s and my 30s, before I started to listen to her voice in the back of my mind. She was gone, but I remembered her saying, you know, quit putting so much junk on your skin. Just moisturize and clean and eat healthily and exercise a lot. So, I mean, it is an inside job, isn't it? Because you've got to rely on lifestyle, your food choices, and make sure that you're oxygenating your blood to even have a chance at getting a bit of a glow on.
Your mom was a smart lady. She knows there's no simple, easy answer. Skin is an organ, and its health parallels a healthy body. And your mom knew that exercise was good, which is why she was walking those 20 miles. She knew a good, nutritious diet. You know, Susan, it's not the sexy answer. It's not the quick fix in the bottle. Use this and I'll take 20 years off of your look. But she knew that a healthy body, a healthy skin, short of having good genetics, which you have no control over, is a healthy diet and exercise. It's a good night to sleep. And there's science to prove all those things. I'm a big proponent of laughter. I don't have the science to prove this, but I certainly believe it in my heart. Levity and some laughter also helps with good health. And then as far as skin itself is concerned, sunscreen application every day. And if your skin is dry, moisturizer, as you said. But that's how to optimize skin health, is to optimize a healthy body. And your mom knew that.
What about some of the other buzzwords that we see in the marketing, some on the outsides of packages? We read it's dermatologist tested, dermatologist rather tested,
Right.
and it's hypoallergenic. And what else? We've also got, you know, peptides and ceramides and all kinds of different elements that go in it. But your big message is what exactly?
Yeah, the way that most of these products work, the eye creams and the night creams and the day creams and the neck creams and yada, yada, their way they function as cosmetics really depends more on how well they work as a moisturizer, how well they can help your skin retain water. And so you can take a really great moisturizer, and these good manufacturing companies do this. They take a great moisturizer, they add a tiny bit of some ingredient, which would satisfy the claim on the front panel. And they would put it on the front as an anti-aging or an age-defying. They can satisfy the claim because there might be retinol or an antioxidant or any one of those other super potent ingredients that you mentioned in that product, but it's a minuscule amount, probably just enough to identify it if somebody was going to test it and see if it was in there. And
so it might have one little dollop of, coenzyme Q or something.
Correct. It could be just a tiny bit in there. It satisfies the claim. And again, this is sort of the, certainly from my testing, I test products that have these ingredients in them and others that don't. And they function some of them function very similarly as moisturizers, how well they retain water. Remember, the most important information on any skincare product is the ingredient listing. And the consumer doesn't understand triethanolamine and cetyl alcohol and all these ingredients. So it's a blind item. So all the consumer can do is look at the front panel. And that's where you find all these buzzwords. You find all these, you mentioned dermatologist tested. Shall we talk about that one?
No, absolutely.
Okay,
Rattle through your list of top 10 buzzwords.
Dermatologist tested is another great marketing term. There's no federal guideline or standard of what has to be done to put that on the front of a skincare product. So who is this doctor? Who is this? Is it one dermatologist? Is it 5? Is it 10? Did they apply it to themselves? They might even be the person selling the product. You don't know if they applied it onto 10 or 20, or if the budget allowed 50 people. So there's no federal guideline, but it appears to the consumer that it's a better product because it says dermatologist tested on it. So that's just another very commonly used buzzword that you see.
I mean, we've picked up the habit, those of us who are health conscious, which is most of us, I think, these days. Everybody's looking forensically at the food labels from, big food, the marketers of these hyper addictive concoctions of refined grains and starch and sugar, and we get to know that that's just another form of fructose. So avoid. But what are the standout toxins that we need to be more aware of when we look at the back of a label of a jar of skin cream?
Mm-hmm. So there are it's not about what toxins are in there. It's about how much. So the difference between food and skincare is when you look at the back of a ketchup bottle, you might call it, do you call it ketchup or tomato sauce? In the UK,
I think
okay.
I don't know. I don't have it. So ketchup,
okay, well,
I guess.
we call it ketchup in New York. But when you look at the back of a ketchup bottle, you'll see tomatoes, you'll see salt, you'll see oil, you might see some spice that you'll recognize. The consumer understands the ingredients. When you look at the back of a skincare product, you might see caprylic triglyceride and want to run the other way. Well, that's just a form of coconut oil. So it's not the ingredient that you look for. It's a well-formulated moisturizer has ingredients in it in small enough doses to do a good job. So it's the dose of the particular ingredient, not the ingredient. And we use Tylenol or acetaminophen as an example. If you have a headache, right, you can take 1 extra strength Tylenol or acetaminophen. It will take care of your headache. If you take a whole bottle of that extra strength Tylenol, it'll get rid of your liver and you'll be gone in 2 weeks. So it's not the chemical, it's the amount of the chemical.
But wouldn't you need a lot of hyaluronic acid to make a visible change in the surface of your skin?
Well, hyaluronic acid is a component of skin, but it's a very, very large molecule. You stick it on top of the surface of the skin, it can't penetrate. But if I'm a skincare manufacturer and I say, oh, it has hyaluronic acid in it, which happens to be a good humectant. Remember those little sponge molecules that we have in the surface of the skin? Well, hyaluronic acid has a great ability to hold on to water. So it's a very useful ingredient in formulation. But keep in mind, it costs about $200 a pound compared to another humectant, which is commonly used called glycerin. That's about $1 a pound.
So is glycerin a good guy ingredient? So if we're looking at the beneficial ingredients, if you're just in the supermarket and you haven't gone to, we'll just park this over here, fryface.com, your product selector education hub. We'll set that aside for now. But if you haven't managed to go to that and you're just, cruising a new supermarket, you're thinking, oh, I really need some skin cream. So you look on the back, you want to see glycerin.
Yeah, the first 4 or 5 ingredients are going to constitute about 90 to 95% of the product. The first ingredient, I can almost guarantee you, is going to be water. The second ingredient might be glycerin. The third ingredient might be some sort of occlusive, which is an ingredient that prevents water from evaporating to try to mimic those fats. And you might see dimethicone, you might see petrolatum or petroleum jelly. It's usually called petrolatum in formulation. So those are kind of the top 3 that you would probably see, 1, 2, 3. And that's a good basis for a good, well-formulated moisturizer.
Okay. And if you want to get really drilled down and get something that's absolutely fantastic for your particular skin, you would go to fryface.com. Tell us about your product selector tool there.
Yes, I have a product selector on the website, Fryface. Like you mentioned, it's FRYFACE. And we recommend products that are manufactured from reputable skincare companies who do make very good products. They do happen to be the same companies that are also selling products that perhaps are unnecessary with these not so great claims. But the good side is they do make really good moisturizers that are helpful. We test them in the office. So I have a machine. It's called a corneometer. and I can actually measure the water content of your skin, allow you to use a product or two for the next week or so. We invite you back in and we retest the water content of skin. So we're testing whether the product works, not just how well it feels. And so those are the products that we choose to put on the product selector. They're effective, safe, available at your local 5 and dime, your local drugstore, and they're also the most affordable.
And do you get some sort of a commission?
As a Amazon affiliate, we do get 4% when anything is bought through there. To date, it's all been donated to the Melanoma Education Foundation. We just donate all the profits to a skin cancer foundation.
So your mission is pure as the driven.
Yes, I don't sell any products. I don't work for any skin care manufacturer. The 4% we're entitled to, as is every Amazon affiliate. We have donated every penny to date. And again, my goal was to advocate, Susan, for the consumer. Skincare companies are wonderful, but they advocate for their shareholders, as they should, right? They're a good company. They want good business. Media is great, but it advocates for itself with sensationalism. They want the audience for the ad dollars. And nobody is advocating for the consumer when we have this blind item that they can't understand the ingredient listing. And that was my goal 20 years ago. And it's my goal today. And it's really the purpose of the book, The Skincare Hoax, is to help clarify for the consumer, the industry.
Yeah. What's necessary, what's essential, what's not. Let's talk the difference between facial moisturizer and these very expensive eye creams in the teeny tiny pots.
Yes, well, look, I have friends that are skin pathologists, and if they tell me if you take a piece of skin from the eye and another piece just below on the cheek and look under the microscope, you cannot tell the difference. And I guarantee you there are no ingredients in those eye creams that are going to work here and not work here, and vice versa. So
it's all as we suspected, from some big vat in a manufacturing facility, and it's just the differential comes with the size of the pots and the price.
Some of the facial moisturizers are repackaged as eye creams, and some are totally different formulations. But the eye cream, again, how well it works as an anti-puff or wrinkle, it really depends on its ability to moisturize the skin. So I don't think an eye cream is necessary. The price per ounce unit price is almost always higher than a facial moisturizer. So I don't necessarily think people need both of those, eye cream and face cream. The ingredients.
But we always learn from, when you're a tween looking at the pocket-sized Glamour magazine, you learn that the eye skin is so suggestive of crow's feet and things. Your skin is thinner there, so it needs special, more delicate attention. And you're only supposed to use your little pinky. You're never supposed to use your fatter, stronger fingers to touch that delicate eye skin. Right. Yeah, you suddenly erupt in a lattice of crow's feet.
Sure, like where's the science? I don't know anybody who's ever done a test testing the finger versus the pinky. I don't know where that came from. It is true that the skin around the eye is some of the thinnest on the body, if not the thinnest, which would, to me, it's probably the most susceptible to sun damage because it is the thinnest. Ironically, eye creams don't have sunscreen in them, which is kind of hysterical if you think about it. If it's the most susceptible to sun damage, why isn't it have an SPF in them? But there's a whole bunch of myths and rumors, like use your pinky, like you said, use an eye cream. And there's just no valid science that says that any of this is necessary.
So if you did have an eye cream, let's say you were gifted a really expensive, intensive eye cream, which I actually just was a couple of months ago. So would you put your sunscreen on and then put it on, or put that on first and then your sunscreen?
Well, you ask different dermatologists, they'll tell you something different. I always put my moisturizer on first because that's what I do when I come out of the shower. And then the last thing I do before I go out is I put on my sunscreen. But these eye creams and night creams and day creams, it's like a Dr. Seuss novel, right? Toners and primers, it goes on and on and on. You know what I say? They're like sprinkles on an ice cream cone. They're colorful and they're fun and they're playful and they might make you feel good, but they don't necessarily change the inherent flavor of the ice cream. They don't change the nature of the skin. If you enjoy them and you're gifted them and you like how they sit on your vanity, and some of these, we even talk about this, Susan, some of them are upwards of $400 or $500 or probably that many pounds per ounce, an ounce being a shot glass. These are very expensive, some of these products.
Have you ever had someone come into your office and say, break me of my skin cream addiction? I'm addicted to this and it's, 200 quid an ounce.
You know what I have? I've had people come in and they dump onto the examining table hundreds of dollars worth of products. And they have, like I said, there's eye creams and day creams and neck creams and toners and primers and astringents. And there's so many things. And when I'm done with educating, the bottom line is you need a sunscreen every day and you need a moisturizer. And I'll tell you a story. I had one woman who came in and it melted my heart. She told me about how she took her arm and swept the vanity, all her hundreds of products that were sitting on her vanity, into a black garbage bag and left a moisturizer and a sunscreen. And she told me how liberated she felt. And I felt really good about that. Here she was staring at these products like an accusing mob every day, and she felt guilty. She didn't have the time or the interest to use them. So that really was fulfilling to me.
You set her on the right course.
I think I did. She felt better about herself and not having to buy all these products and use all these products. And it's overwhelming. It's really, the consumer is overwhelmed what they need. Marketing is powerful.
It sure is. It sure is. It affects us so much. And now we've got the extra layer, social media on top of it, and influencers, and who don't look at all like the way they present on Instagram. And they are making a fortune touting all of these expensive creams that we know from the architecture of the skin have little chance. What do you always say? You say it's, trying to get a Mack truck through all these layers. Tell me some of the
we talk about
analogies that you
certain
use.
ingredients. Yeah, we were talking about hyaluronic acid. I said that's such a large molecule. That's the analogy I use. Getting that hyaluronic acid through those layers of dead skin is like getting a Mack truck through your front door. It's not happening.
Yeah, the penetration just does not happen. So we need to rid our minds of the brainwashing that we've succumbed to through no fault of our own. I mean, it's just all around us.
All around. And celebrities are wonderful. They have a huge advantage in that they have an audience, right? A celebrity has got hundreds of thousands of followers. So they have a market share. They put their name on a product, put it out there. They have instant success because they can reach thousands and thousands of consumers at a dime. So that's why they do it. It makes money.
What's your view on collagen and elastin, which, cause the sagginess? And I don't take collagen, but I've been researching it and I'm very interested. What's your view on that?
Well, like you mentioned, collagen and elastin are those support structures, proteins that I spoke about that are in the dermis. And they're important. And the sun breaks them down. But again, if you put collagen in a moisturizer and sit it on the skin, it's that Mack truck phenomena. It's not getting through into the dermis where it needs to get to change your the structure of your skin. The analogy I have, the pink fiberglass insulation that is built into a home between the walls. It's helpful. It definitely helps the insulation of the home and keeps you warm. But if I was to take some of that insulation and stick it on the roof of your house and tell you, oh, this insulation is part of your house, it's good for you. It's good for your house. It's a better house because there's insulation on the roof. You would laugh at me. You'd say, yes, it's on the roof, but it's not where it needs to be.
And but you'd want to put it inside the house. So that's the topical application. What if you're ingesting some of these collagen powders, these glandulars that you can get now?
Well, the collagen is a long chain it's a protein. So it's a long chain of amino acids. When it gets into the stomach, you have all these proteases that break it down. And so you ingest basically amino acids. It doesn't get absorbed like full-fledged collagen. You get amino acids, which is also what you get when you have steak. So I'm not going to tell you the collagen is absorbed, gets into the blood, gets through into the blood vessels, into the dermis as full collagen. It just doesn't happen like that. But it's great marketing.
Would you be better off just making a big pot of bone broth?
You'd be better off eating a nutritious diet with lean protein and fruits and vegetables and some healthy carbs.
So you wouldn't take a couple of tablespoons of collagen of a morning?
Nope. I mean, you could take it, but it's not going to do your skin any good. And there's no study that shows it does. All
righty. Now, facial cleansers. You have some funny ideas about facial cleansers, I have to say. Funny for me because, I was a TV presenter for a long time. I'm used to wearing makeup. I cannot imagine doing what you suggest. Tell us what you suggest.
Well, it's not that I suggest, it's the truth is when you look at science, if you have healthy skin, now again, I'm not talking about people with acne or inflammatory skin conditions. I'm talking about women in particular, but men too with healthy skin. And I am one. I never use a cleanser on my face. I wash in the shower with water.
But do you wear makeup?
I do. But by the end of the day, it's usually worn off. And then when I'm in the shower, it's mostly water-based. So by the time I throw the water on there and dry my face with a towel, there's no more makeup on my face. So I did a survey, and we did it. This was many years ago, about 500 women. And half of those women with healthy skin never use soap on their face, never used a cleanser. They just use water, and their skin is as healthy as the women who chose to use a cleanser.
But how can
So
they slough off the deeply embedded bits of the makeup, even if it's water-based and some aren't water-based? I mean, surely it embeds itself in your pores.
well, I don't know that it does. What makes you think that it gets embedded in your pores? If it got embedded, you think it would build up over time. I don't have any embedded moist, makeup on my face.
But
I've
you can
never run
see
into someone and say, "What's that on your face? It looks like embedded makeup." It
when you
just
have
doesn't happen.
blocked pores, I mean, shouldn't you have an exfoliator or a polishing cleanser? I mean, I know I'm just baiting you. The 5-step cleansing ritual every night
Sure.
before you go to bed.
Yeah, you need the water-based cleanser, and then the oil-based cleanser, and then the toner to get off the residue. In my opinion, you're using the wrong cleanser. You don't need any of it. Now, if
But
you
even
have,
for mascara, you need something with a bit of kick to it to get mascara off, surely. It's
uh,
not going to come off unless you spent an hour, massaging your eyelashes with
maybe you're
water.
using the wrong mascara. Again, if you want to take the makeup off because you don't want a dirty pillowcase at night, which is just going to make you do laundry, then sure, use your cleanser. I'm not opposed to it, but there's no science that says you're healthier for using the cleanser. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. What about, I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it micellar water, which
Yeah,
seems
micellar
to
water that
be,
makes micelles. Yeah, that's very popular now.
yeah. And what do you make of that? Is that an essential skincare ingredient or at least beneficial to some?
Well, a micellar water is basically it's another type of cleanser. It's mostly water, so it's a very high profit margin for the company because it's 90 something percent water. They add a tiny surfactant. A surfactant is the ingredient that actually surrounds the dirt or the makeup or the oil and lowers the surface tension so that when the water comes, it washes it away. So they add a tiny bit of surfactant, which is, again, a very mild form of a cleanser. And they form this surfactant surrounds the dirt into something called micelles, which are little, clusters of dirt that are surrounded by this surfactant. And that's why it's called micellar water. But it's just another mild cleanser. It's just another option to clean your face with, in my opinion.
So ever since you were born, or ever since you became schooled
Mhm.
in the hoax elements of skincare, and you also are a chemist and you've done all of the research, you only really wash your face with water each and every day.
Every day. That is correct. I almost never put soap on my face or any cleanser. I do shower. I am a runner. I run in the morning. I wash with water in the morning. I go to night at night before I go to bed. I have a habit of showering again, and I just rinse with water. I don't even have soap and cleanser in my bath. I don't need it for my face.
You're not one of these anti-shampoo people, are you?
No, but shampoo is another ingredient that, you ask anyone over 75 years of age, if you know anyone, ask them what shampoo did they use when they were 10 or 12 years old. And I guarantee you this, I'm going to tell you how they're going to answer you. They're going to say, I don't remember. And the reason they don't remember is shampoo didn't become a household staple until about the late 50s, early 60s. In the United States, it was a companies called Brell and Preck. Breck shampoo, Prel, and Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo.
Yeah, that's what I
Before
used
that,
as a kid.
yeah, most people just use soap, a bar of soap. So shampoo is a rather recent, household staple. And it is designed as a surfactant to clean the hair, and also leave it more manageable. And it's become a cultural staple, a cultural norm. But there is a growing population of people who don't want to use shampoo, and they do call it the no poo campaign. Um,
They call
I'm a
it the what? The
the
what?
no poo campaign.
No, okay,
No poo.
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I recall reading that. And I've got a mate who does that. Doesn't wash his hair
Yeah.
for a month. And he says, oh, it cleans itself. And I know from camping, when you're hard out in the woods, I haven't done that for years, but, in my 20s, when we go for these big camping expeditions, your hygiene would be challenged. And so you wouldn't be able to wash your hair so much depending on where you were.
Sure.
And then it does get better after about the third day, fourth day.
Sure. It's
But is
remember
there a
hair.
regulating, the body can self-regulate the cleanliness of your scalp as well?
Well, some people need to shampoo because sometimes the scalp will retain skin, and it's helpful to remove some of the layers on the scalp. But again, hair is dead. It's a dead protein like your nails. It's hydrated by the sebum or the oil that's produced in the hair follicles on the scalp. It works its way down the hair. And a lot of it is not so much for health, but for manageable and again, cultural beauty norms, what we're expected to look like. And that's where shampoo comes from. You ever read the ingredients on a shampoo bottle? A lot of times it says lather, rinse, repeat. Now, where did that science come from? Who decided you need to repeat this process, and who really does repeat it? And what's the purpose besides using up twice the amount of product?
Yeah, I never rinse and repeat. And what's great is now we've got, as you get older and definitely post-menopause, you think about washing your hair less. At least I do. I swim a lot, but I'm really careful not to be washing my hair. As I used to do when I was a kid, I washed it every morning. Now it's, twice a week. And just trying to keep the moisture in as much as possible and protect it against the chlorine.
Well, you're using it to protect your hair, which is being stripped in the chlorinated water. So it's a beautifying technique. It's not necessarily for your health.
I was surprised when I opened your book and you wrote that some people, increase it, women and some men, start their day by putting, you said, 500 chemicals on their faces.
Well, on their bodies. If you add up, when the first thing people do is they might use an antiperspirant. If they take a shower, they'll use a cleanser. They'll use a shampoo. They'll use a conditioner. Some people use a bath or body oil when they come out. They'll moisturize. That's before they get to their makeup. When you get to the makeup, you have a blush. You might have a mascara. You might have some sort of lipstick. You might have some sort of foundation. I just rattled off 10 products. The average product may have 30 to 50 ingredients in it. You do the math. You're up to hundreds of different chemicals.
So many nasties. Yeah, and getting into our water system then and staying there. And, no filter system is going to take all that out.
And I'm not saying this is bad. Again, the skin is a great barrier, but if you're really concerned with exposing yourself to so much of these ingredients, which for whatever reason you're convinced aren't good for you, stop using so many products. It's really that simple. They're not being used because they're enhancing your health. They're being used because we are culturally designed to feel we need these products, and we don't.
It's back to my mom. 3 things. She always said, get rid of all that stuff. Choose 3 things.
Yeah.
Which is great. And she used to have this big pink jar. I think it was Elizabeth Arden. And it was literally like beef fat. And she had beautiful skin. And she would slather that on at night. And and that was it. That was pretty much it for her skincare routine.
Yeah. And so you're just strengthening my argument.
Yeah, no, definitely. My mom and you could have a good chat. Now, I want to ask if the skincare hoax, your book, has drawn any criticism from the industry itself.
Susan, I've been shocked. I have gotten more support than one person should be allowed, even from the industry itself. Now, these companies make really good products. They are also the same companies that are putting out some products that have these dubious claims, but the bottom line is they make good products. They are nationally, internationally known companies. They have the best resources to make safe products. The representatives of, I'd say, 4 out of the top 7 come to my office. They ask me my opinion. They don't come on a paid basis. They do not pay me. I've had great outreach from my colleagues, a lot of my colleagues who understand what I'm saying based on science. Patients, consumers, I've gotten great feedback from, and a lot of cosmetic chemists has said, finally, somebody's saying what's going on. So I have been so pleased and so grateful for the outpouring of support. It's overwhelming. I have to tell you, it's really overwhelming. I never in a million years would have expected this kind of positive, support.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're just going to wind up soon, but I want to ask you, the one product that you would never surrender would be what?
Oh, sunscreen. That's easy. I would never surrender sunscreen. It is regulated as a drug. It is the #1. If you want to use the word anti-aging, let's use it here. Preventing sun damage, preventing skin cancer. The research is in my favor. It just is by far, and I mean daily. I always joke that dentists have done a great job with brushing your teeth. We get up in the morning and nobody asks themselves, what am I going to eat today? Am I going to have a lot of sweets? Do I need to brush my teeth? You don't have that conversation with yourself, right? You just brush your teeth. And that's what sunscreen needs to be like 365 days a year. And not because you're not on a chaise lounge on the beach, but the sun shines. It doesn't care whether you're on a chaise lounge or you're walking to the local 5 and dime out of your car. Those rays hit your skin and it's cumulative. It adds up. And so in my opinion, to ask me that question, sunscreen every single day. And if I was stranded on a desert island, that's the one product I'd bring with myself.
And what sun protection factor does it have to be? I know that in episode 49, when we drilled deep into skincare in general, you were pointing out the differences between factor 30, factor 50, and what you use factor 70. You take no
I do.
chances.
Well, again, what you get on the bottle depends on how much you put on. So if you have a SPF 70 and you're putting it on sparingly, you're not getting SPF 70. So I happen to prefer the sticks, and I put a 70 on every single day. I like it. It works for me. It's wax-based. Like I said, I run, so it doesn't get in my eyes and run. It works for me. But 30 or higher, if you put it on liberally, on the face, the ears, the back of the hands, this time of year, you're clothed pretty much everywhere else. You don't need it under your clothes. And that's what I suggest, and putting it on liberally so you get that SPF. I go the higher the better. That's my opinion, and I'm happy with it. But if you're putting on a 30 and you're putting it on liberally, that's fine. That's fine.
What about that blocking out though? Your need, you need the sun, and it needs to fall on your skin to manufacture vitamin D. Do you supplement with vitamin D?
If you're low, I always say if you get tested and your vitamin D low, then absolutely supplement. But there's really no correlation between using sunscreen and vitamin D deficiency. Ironically, the population that has the lowest vitamin D levels is the population of folks with skin of color, and they almost never use sunscreen. So maybe it's genetic, maybe it's diet, but the bottom line is if you are deficient, then you should supplement.
All righty. Any final words, Fayne, to add to your skin positive, anti-sexism, anti-ageism, anti-lookism message?
Yeah. I guess in summary, I would tell people to love themselves for who they are, to use a simple skincare regimen, and there's no correlation between the products you purchase and what works. So you can buy, the less expensive products on the market are fine. That the things that matter, Susan, are health matters, and accomplishments matter, and kindness matters, and none of those things come in a bottle or a tube. So I'd like to remind people of that. And women need to look in the mirror and say these little 4 words: dear me, I'm awesome, because you probably really are.
It does take some convincing, doesn't it? Because we're getting barraged with all the messages that make us feel insecure about every little thing about ourselves from the minute we're born. I mean, we are detailed and described, and it's so difficult, especially to a greater degree if you're a woman, because all of your value is held up as being how you look.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can change that one awesome person at a time.
Absolutely. New York dermatologist and skin cancer specialist, Dr. Fayne Frey, author of the hot new book, The Skincare Hoax. She's also the founder of product education hub, fryface.com, F-R-Y, face.com, essential aids to understanding what your skin really needs so that you can get your glow on. Now, a million thanks for listening and or watching The Big Middle and donating to it via my website, which is susanflory.com. What else? Thank you for your many wonderful reviews. I really enjoy getting the emails that you send me. People email me. They don't really comment on the socials thing, but they do email me a lot and share their feedback there. So keep those coming. It may take me a little while to get to them, but I definitely see them all and will answer you eventually. So with that, be well until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, Susan. Thank you for having me.